Well, finally got the subframe where I wanted it. Finally sorted that out. Took a while. I had to put some heat on the tubing for that, but it's steel, not aluminium. So now the next job is to repair this tailpiece, which can be seen here, the aluminium one that I made originally, which got badly damaged in the crash, and there's video of it also that I took earlier. So I've cut that damaged piece out with the snips. That bench is the cleanest it's been for a long time. I've moved the drill stand over there out of the way, give me a bit more space here, because I've got the tank to repair as well after this tailpiece. So I'm going to cut a piece of aluminium to fit into there where I've cut that out and weld it in. So that's my next job. I've now cut out the very badly damaged piece of metal from that side, and I've made a new piece to fit in there, which is just temporarily fitted with a couple of clips at the moment. Is to close up. And I'm going to weld that in. Getting it tacked in the right position is the tricky bit. I've got it tacked now and welded up there. It's not very neat, but it's going to be filed down and polished, hopefully. Getting it tacked accurately is the trickiest bit, and then when you file it, it's got to be level, so it'll have to be tapped in and out here and there from the inside maybe to get it level. And I'm using a rod here that does not run. It's not a silicone rod, it's a pure rod, so it matches. I've had to cut strips off the metal for these side bits that are going to show. And this is very thin, it's only 18s gauge, it's less than 1.5 mil, which is 16s gauge. I'm going to have to nip in and get another welding rod out of the airing cupboard. I don't think this is going to go far enough. If this had been 16s gauge, 1.5 aluminium, it'd be a lot easier to weld. I go back over it sometimes, but I've seen a low spot because to leave a low spot there when you start filing it up, because I want this finished job to be all polished. If you get a low spot, you've got to go back over it and weld it again, otherwise it doesn't look level when you file it. I might get to the end of this with this rod. trouble with this, it's not exactly clean metal, there's been stickers on it. It's left glue behind, which I've tried to clean off as best I can. There's no use trying to weld aluminium if it's dirty. Far easier to use a 5% silicone rod, it flows like solder. But it hasn't got the right colour match when you polish it up. It doesn't compare with the base metal. So I only use that for welding on petrol tap bosses, filler caps, and or if you're welding Dural. You don't very often hear that word these days. It's aircraft quality aluminium. Some of it can weld, some of it you can't. Yeah, I don't keep my welding rods in the garage because they get damp and corroded, especially the electrodes with flux on. I keep them in the flats and the airing cupboard, keeps them warm, keeps the damp away. I've got that to shape and weld up. Do that in a minute. That's not the best example of my neatest aluminium welding, but as I say, it's going to be filed off, polished. At least the piece is in. That surplus part at the top will be cut off and folded to give an edge to match the other. And if you can see inside there is plenty penetration. You can see the muck where that black part is. Some of the glues and stickers and rubber pieces that were inside of it, which I did remove, but getting all the glue off and that's bright metal inside isn't easy. So we'll have another look at it when I've finished. The worst part is filing a butt weld of that description across a piece of sheet or plate. Difficult to get the file on it without scratching it everywhere else. Right, that's the weld rub down on that end of the joint. I need a little bit more yet. I've used a dreadnought file with an extra bit put on the end of it to raise the file up, so it's only touching where I want it to touch, not catching anywhere else. That's the idea behind that. I need a bit more of a file with a finer file, and then wet and dry paper. I did put some tape on there, not so much to protect the aluminium, but to give me a bit of a guide, because I took some of the rough off with an angle grinder, and one slip and the job is ruined. So that's why I've got it all clamped down to the bench so it doesn't move. I don't normally use an angle grinder. One slip and the job is wrecked. But on this particular joint it's awkward to get out with a file from the word go. So the tape gave me a bit of warning to back off a bit if I see any grinder marks in the tape, so that I don't go too far. all in line now, the front and back wheels, although I've got to do some double checking at the front end on the headstock and the forks to make sure there's no damage there. I've repaired the tailpiece, which was totally trashed and smashed in. So that's done, ready to go back on. Needs polishing yet, of course.